Present.
Thank you. Shane Kiesel.
Good afternoon. Yes, present.
Thank you. Cesar Rodriguez. Chelsea Fenton. Beverly Chanowski.
Present.
Thank you. Tom Massey. I'm sorry, Eric Massey.
Present.
Thank you. Tom Eckert.
Present.
Anderson.
Present.
Thank you. Robert Vondenacker.
Present.
Thank you. Kenya Lugo Wait.
Present.
Thank you. Anita Lee. Salvador Portillo. Dan Cisco. Megan Sheldon.
Present.
Thank you. Mark Ortiz. Spencer Camps. Rick Williams.
Present.
Thank you. Kim Butler.
Here, thank you.
Thank you. Nicole Clements.
Here.
Thank you. Michael Baez.
Present.
Thank you. Jennifer Peterson.
Present.
Thank you. Katrina Gerster.
Present.
Thank you. Rupesh Patel. Ramona Simpson.
Present.
Thank you. Ben Davis.
Present.
Thank you. Ryan Templeton.
Present.
Thank you. Justin Sorianata.
Present.
Thank you. Christina Hopis.
Present.
Thank you. Aaron Daughtery. Susie Stevens. Did I miss anyone? Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
A quorum is now present. Good afternoon, members of the MAG Air Quality Technical Advisory Committee. This meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you'd like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist with any questions you may have. If you parked in the garage, a validation stamp is available on the counter. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available for MAG staff. Our next item is a call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items, or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience unless the chair requests an exception to this limit. I have received no requests to speak for the call to the audience. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. MAG staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to the audience?
Mr. Chair, we have received no written comments for the call to the audience.
Our next item is approval of the January 22nd, 2026 meeting minutes. Does any member of the committee have questions? Hearing none, prior to approval of the meeting minutes, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment. I have received no requests to speak for this agenda item. MAG staff, have we received any online written comments for this item?
Mr. Chair, no written comments have been received.
Is there a motion to approve agenda item 3?
This Walt Bouchard, move to approve.
Justin Sorianata, second.
We have a motion from Bouchard and a second from Justin. A roll call vote will be taken at this time by Lisa Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, when I call your name, please state your vote. Walter Bouchard.
Yes, approved.
Thank you. Shane Kiesel.
Yes.
Thank you. Cesar Rodriguez. Chelsea Fenton. Beverly Chanowski.
Yes.
Thank you. Eric Massey.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Ekron.
Aye.
Thank you. Kim Anderson.
Aye.
Thank you. Robert Vandenacker.
Aye.
Thank you. Kenya Lugo Wade.
Aye.
Thank you. Dan Cisco. Megan Sheldon.
Aye.
Thank you. Mark Ortiz. Spencer Camps. Rick Williams.
Yay.
Thank you. Kim Butler.
Aye.
Thank you. Nicole Clements.
Aye.
Thank you. Michael Baez.
Aye.
Thank you. Jennifer Peterson.
Aye.
Thank you. Katrina Gerster.
Aye.
Thank you. Rupesh Patel.
Aye.
Thank you. Ramona Simpson.
Aye.
Thank you. Ben Davis.
Aye.
Thank you. Ryan Templeton. Justin Suryanata.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Thank you. Christina Hopez.
Aye.
Thank you. Aaron Daughtery. Susie Stevens. Did I miss anyone?
This is Ryan Templeton. I vote aye.
Thank you.
This is Chelsea Fenton. I'm an aye.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, we have a unanimous vote.
2025 Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program Annual Report. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Dean Giles, Maricopa Association of Governments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We are pleased to provide the 2025 Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program Annual Report. The Federal Highway Administration guidance requires that states receiving CMAQ funding prepare an annual report. And since MAG receives most of the CMAQ funding in Arizona, MAG prepares a great majority of the report, as well as the Arizona Department of Transportation. The annual report contains CMAQ-funded projects that's obligated for the year that ended September 30th, 2025, and also the expected air quality benefits. And in this report, you'll see a number of agency projects, including intelligent transportation program projects, bicycle and pedestrian projects, rideshare projects, as well as a PM10 paving unpaved road projects. These are projects that either reduce congestion and or improve air quality. So in the annual report, you'll see that there's a project description as well as the cost information and the estimated emission reductions in kilograms per day. Thank you very much. That completes my report.
Thank you, Dean. Do any members have questions or comments? Preparation of a redesignation request and a maintenance plan for the West Central Penal PM 2.5 non-attainment area. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Laura Ballard, Maricopa Association of Governments.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm here today to provide the committee an update on the air quality planning activities for the West Central Pinal PM 2.5 non-attainment area for the 2006 daily standard. Today, I'm going to go over an overview of the non-attainment area including the geographical area and history, a brief historical timeline of the non-attainment area and designation, what the data show and what we expect to see as we move forward, a high-level summary of the requirements for a redesignation request, as well as the associated maintenance plan. Then I'll continue with a look at what's ahead, including where we are in the process, a draft timeline for activities, and then time to answer any questions. A little about particulate matter, also referred to as PM. While the PM10 is largely associated with dust, PM generally comes from combustion. PM 2.5 generally comes from combustion sources and smoke. However, when you have PM10, as we do here in the Southwest, PM 2.5 is also present and can be from sources other than combustion and smoke. Ultimately, both can have a negative impact a negative impact to both respiratory and cardiac functions. As a reminder here, the National Ambient Air Quality Standard, or NAAQS, for the 24-hour PM 2.5 is 35 micrograms per cubic meter. Here's a map of the West Central Pinal non-attainment area and boundary. The area is currently designated as a moderate non-attainment for the 2006 24-hour PM 2.5 standard. The non-attainment area sits in the west central portion of Pinal County and encompasses where two metropolitan planning organizations meet. The MAG MPO boundary is identified in the blue shaded area and predominantly on the left, and the Sun Corridor Metropolitan Planning Organization boundary is to the right in yellow. The area shaded gray are tribal communities and are not part of the non-attainment area. The entire non-attainment area has a population roughly 80,000, most of which reside in the city of Maricopa and incorporated areas. The yellow star in the center represents where our PM 2.5 monitor collect the ambient air measurements. The aerial image to the left shows the location of the Hidden Valley Monitor. It is the only monitoring station collecting monitoring data in the non-attainment area. The monitor is maintained by the Pinal County Air Quality Control District. As you can see, identified by the star, the monitor is in the middle of heavy agricultural land uses and is also near some rural residential. The non-attainment area as a whole includes a variety of land uses, including agricultural, crop, and livestock activities, undeveloped land, rural and residential developments, and nearby desert wilderness areas. Next, I'll share some of the history of the non-attainment area. In 2011, the area was designated as non-attainment for the 2006 24-hour particulate matter standard, which was at the time and still is 35 micrograms per cubic meter. In 2014, the area was classified as moderate, which then triggered the attainment date of December 31st, 2017. In 2019, EPA determined that the area had attained and met the standard by the attainment date based on quality assured monitoring data from 2015 to 2017. This determination suspended several attainment planning requirements for the area. This includes developing a state implementation plan demonstrating attainment. It would also include establishing reasonable available control measures for the area known as RACM. We would have to demonstrate reasonable further progress known as RFP and contingency measures for not meeting RFP. Now here is what the data show. Here's a chart of the latest design value for the Hidden Valley Monitor from the time of EPA's attainment determination in 2017. The design value is calculated by averaging the 98th percentile of annual 24-hour PM concentrations over 3 consecutive years. The dashed line is the standard to meet of 35 micrograms per cubic meter. The green solid line going across shows a decrease starting in 2022. This dotted line shows the downward trend in PM 2.5 daily design values. We can see the most recent design values, including the preliminary 2025 value, are sitting at 26 micrograms per cubic meter, well below the standard. As part of the planning for the redesignation request and maintenance plan, MAG will develop an emissions inventory for 2023 for the attainment demonstration, which include design value data attaining the standard for 5 consecutive years as calculated. We will provide the committee updates on the emission inventory as it is developed. As of today, an emissions inventory hasn't been done for the non-attainment area, but we can expect to find certain emission sources from what we know about the area. The West Central Pinal non-attainment area emissions are often a result of fugitive dust sources like reentrained dust from on paved and unpaved roads, agricultural activities, and construction. For the purposes of this redesignation request and maintenance plan, we will include the PM 2.5 precursors, which are ammonia, nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, and volatile organic compounds. Again, as we develop an emissions inventory, we'll bring to the committee our analysis and present our findings. We are also gaining insights from emission sources by looking at the latest available NEI from 2020 that include all of Pinal County. We can expect to find similar sources of PM in the non-attainment area. However, specifically in this 2020 data set, there were significant wildfire smoke present that we wouldn't expect to see in the inventory for 2023. You can see nearly 50% of the total PM 2.5 for Pinal County was attributed to wildfire smoke. These source categories highlighted in green are more representative of what we would expect to find in 2023. Our inventory for the non-attainment area will primarily be using a bottom-up approach and filling in with top-down where needed. This will provide a more robust and comprehensive emissions inventory for the area. So moving on to the requirements of a redesignation request, the process is often submitted simultaneously with the maintenance plan. There are 5 main components outlined in the Clean Air Act to request redesignation from non-attainment to attainment. In order of appearance, first, EPA determines the standard has been attained. Second, all applicable SIP requirements are satisfied. For the most part, non-attainment area requirements were suspended in 2019, though EPA's determination of attainment by the attainment date. Hence, the SIP was never submitted for this area. The remaining SIP requirements include such as submitting a comprehensive emissions inventory, including precursors, documentation of an approvable permitting program for major sources, conducting a transportation conformity analysis, and for our purposes, MAG will include all the remaining components mentioned and submit along with the maintenance plan. The thirdly, the redesignation request must show that improvement in air quality is due to permanent and enforceable emissions reductions and not from related weather patterns or influenced by a downturn in production. This will be included as part of the demonstration of continued attainment through 2038 in the maintenance plan. The fourth requirement for the maintenance plan are outlined in Clean Air Act Section 175A. The requirements are further clarified through longstanding EPA policy guidance. The maintenance plan will contain the bulk of the documentation needed for redesignation. The basic outline of the maintenance plan will be covered on the next slide. And lastly, number 5, we will document that Section 110 and Part D of the Clean Air Act requirements have been met, which are requirements specific to the non-attainment area, also to be included with the maintenance plan submittal. The first requirement has been met, and so our planning focus is on developing the maintenance plan, which will be included in the documentation and discussion of these requirements. So what are the requirements of the maintenance plan? The Clean Air Act and the EPA policy guidance will be used to ensure all requirements are fully met. Here is a summary of what is needed. Technical demonstration of maintenance of the standards for 10 years and continued attainment through the air quality monitoring network. We will develop and submit a comprehensive emissions inventory, including precursors for both the attainment year of 2023 and maintenance year of 2038. As mentioned on the previous slide, as a requirement for the redesignation request, we will document and demonstrate that emission controls are sufficient in maintaining the NAAQS. A contingency plan and commitment to track progress will be developed among our air quality planning partners at the county, state, and Sun Corridor. Transportation conformity will be addressed by potentially developing a motor vehicle emissions budget. Analysis is currently underway to determine how transportation conformity is maintained. And lastly, the plan will include a commitment to submit a subsequent plan revision in 8 years, documenting attainment for the next 10 years. Next, I'll share with you how the redesignation effort is expected to play out and what the anticipated timeline is for the next 20 or so years. First, as we develop the plan, as always, we'll provide this committee with updates throughout the process. The maintenance plan is considered a revision to the SIP, so a comment period and opportunity for public hearing will also be required. We will ask for the committee's recommendation to proceed to policy committees, and once approved, MAG will submit to ADQ to submit the SIP package to EPA. At that point, EPA will have 18 months to deem complete and act on the submittal. Ideally, they will go through their public rulemaking process and propose approval of the SIP. Once approved and adopted, the area's classification will go from moderate non-attainment to maintenance. At the 8-year mark from when EPA approved the maintenance plan, a second maintenance plan will be required, following the same steps as before. During this area's classification will remain in maintenance. Lastly, EPA approves a second maintenance plan through formal rulemaking. And after this 20-year process, all planning requirements will be met for the West Central Pinal area. So stepping back to the near term, here's a look at our tentative timeline. We will continue to provide regular updates to this committee during plan development and expect to be ready for public comment and opportunity for a public hearing around July and August. Once MAG has reviewed all comments received and incorporated any changes, we will bring the draft redesignation request and maintenance plan to this committee in September for recommendation to proceed through the policy committees in November and early December. We are tentatively expecting the final plan to be submitted to EPA by the end of the year. Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Laura. Do any members have questions or comments? EPA final determination of attainment of the 2015 ozone standard in the Maricopa non-attainment area, but for international emissions. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Matt Poppin, Maricopa Association of Governments.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Air Quality Technical Advisory Committee. Today, I just want to kind of briefly go over a milestone for the region and for MAG in EPA's final determination of attainment of the Maricopa ozone non-attainment area, but for international emissions. And first, I just want to highlight some of the major decisions that EPA has made in this action with their approval of the demonstration that we submitted to EPA back in September. EPA published their final rule on Monday, determining that indeed the non-attainment area would have attained the 2015 ozone standard by our attainment date, which was August 3rd, 2024. And that requires us to look at concentrations in the year 2023. but for emissions emanating outside of the United States. Based on our demonstration, we found that those emissions are primarily from Asia and Mexico. As a result of EPA's final action, there's kind of three major regulatory consequences. The first, and probably most important, is that the Maricopa non-attainment area will remain classified as a moderate area and won't be subject to further reclassification into higher and stricter categories of serious and above. This is the relief that Clean Air Act Section 179 specifically provides, and this is the relief Congress intended for those areas that were struggling to attain the standard due to impacts from international emissions. I often get asked, do we have to redo this demonstration? And the answer currently is no. Under the current law, you only have to do this once, and we will remain moderate for the foreseeable future, hopefully until we reach attainment of the standard. And then we can go through a maintenance plan similar to what Laura's talked about for West Pinal. The second action that EPA determined was that contingency measures for failure to attain or failure to make reasonable further progress are no longer required. That means we don't have to have measures waiting to go. There's no triggering event anymore that would ever trigger those. So therefore, we're no longer required to come up with those and submit those to EPA. And then lastly, I do want to highlight that all other moderate area requirements do remain in effect and remain applicable to the area. So kind of in summary, everything that EPA proposed, for the most part, they finalized. I didn't see anything in the notice that changed anything from their proposal to their final action. There is as a pretty extensive response to comments, separate document that EPA has published. It's about 120 pages, where they took a pretty detailed time to respond to comments, both positive and negative. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to look through that. That gives you a little bit more detail on EPA's thinking on a lot of these actions. Kind of stepping back a little bit, I just kind of want to highlight the process that got us to where we were and really thank the strategy that our regional council leadership put together to make this happen, along with the help of our partner agencies, Maricopa County Air Quality Department, Pinal County Air Quality Control District, ADEQ, also the business community, Arizona Commerce Authority, all were pulling in the same direction with this strategy. And really this started back in 2023, and this was MAG's kind of pyramid of strategy, where one, we would pursue relief with federal partners, and that really involved convincing EPA of the need to change the guidance in order for us to access the relief that Congress intended under Clean Air Act Section 179. The second part of that is the amazing technical work that our MAG staff has put together to put that plan together. A special thank you to our modeling staff for all the quick work that they did in putting this plan together. And then ongoing as well, as we continue to do what we can locally. So to continue to decrease ozone through the control measures that currently exist, as well as the transportation that MAG invests in that helps relieve congestion and improve air quality. And as a result of this largely 3-year strategy, we were able to hit the mark on all of these goals. We were able to convince EPA leadership that the prior guidance was unworkable for the MAG region, and they rescinded it. We provided regulatory certainty for business and industry throughout the MAG region going forward. They don't have to worry about surprise changes to what they're supposed to do moving forward. And that really now allows us to focus on advancing policy relevant science to identify best ways to reduce ozone. And what I mean by that is it's not just random control measures that we're required to do, but that we really look and we really focus on things, even though it is an 80-20 split where we can only control 20% of the ozone, we want to identify the best ways to control that 20% and not just have it be a sort of random and mandatory exercise, but one that really is focused on activities that will provide the best benefit for the region. With that, there's a couple next steps, even with this final action that I kind of want to highlight for the committee. First, we're going to continue the scientific work to determine the best ways to control local ozone production, and we're doing that through a couple ways. One, we continue examination of the GLOR study data that was collected in the summer of 2025 with our partner researchers at the Arizona State University and the University of Arizona. We do hope to bring them back again at some point this year, hopefully in the summer, where they can walk through all of the papers that they're developing, all of the studies that they're developing based on this research to help us better understand the formation of ozone in our non-attainment area. We will continue to collaborate with our Intermountain West partners for regional insights on ozone production. As we've talked about, this problem is not unique to the Phoenix area. Our partners in Salt Lake City, Utah, in Las Vegas, Nevada, and in Colorado, throughout the state of Colorado, experience very much the same issues that we do in regards to ozone production. And they are all undergoing their own scientific studies, very similar to what the GLOR study did here. So we continue to collaborate with them for understandings on what might work in their areas and how it could be applied to our areas as well. And that's been really helpful moving forward with things like wildfires and regional impacts as we move forward. And then internally, we're going to continue to maintain the state-of-our-art modeling capabilities. MAG has invested significant hundreds of thousands of dollars just in equipment, let alone the expertise of our staff, to really be on the cutting edge of how we model ozone. And we are able to do that quickly and efficiently. And so we're going to continue to do that so that we can stay on the cutting edge as conditions change and as we learn more. In terms of regulatory actions, as I mentioned earlier, EPA was pretty clear in their final notice that they say all other moderate area requirements remain in effect. So we need to determine if any moderate area requirements that we've already talked about or addressed need to be revised based on EPA's final action. Whether that's requirements related to reasonable further progress or how you demonstrate reasonably available control measures. We most likely will have to do some sort of SIP revision to address those remaining elements in some form or the other. But we need further interaction with EPA to understand what they expect now going forward. So we'll update the committee once we have a better idea of what's going to be in a moderate area SIP revision to address those to address or readdress some of those moderate area requirements. And then, like I said, we will, based on that, we will prepare a moderate area SIP revision as needed. That concludes my overview, and happy to take any questions or comments the committee might have.
Thank you, Matt. Do any members have questions or comments? EPA final rule rescission of the greenhouse gas endangerment finding and motor vehicle greenhouse gas emission standards under the Clean Air Act. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Matt Poppin, Maricopa Association of Governments.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I don't have a presentation for this one. This was largely designed just to provide the committee information so that they can review this. And since we didn't meet in February, I wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of this action, as I know most members are. And really what I wanted to highlight, and I think what is helpful if you look in the agenda packet, is there are a series of fact sheets that EPA has put together that explains the actions and details. One of the questions I often get that I wanted to highlight here today is how does this affect the MAG region and the work we do? In some ways, this action is a sort of an apples to oranges kind of comparison for the work we do. This action is strictly limited to greenhouse gas rules and regulations. And at MAG, we focus on the criteria pollutants. So ozone, PM10, PM2.5. So in many ways, this action is tangential to the work we do in preparing SIPs. But there is a little bit of overlap that I would cover today. And the main spot where we see the overlap in our work is that with this action, EPA did rescind all of the existing vehicle emission standards for greenhouse gas, not for tailpipe emissions, not for emissions of NOx or VOCs or particulate matter, but for greenhouse gas, for CO2 in particular. And what that does is that does affect how our model is constructed, that models emissions for mobile vehicles. We use the EPA model, and that model projects some co-benefits of these rules for criteria pollutants. And mainly what EPA was using to project those benefits is if these rules had stayed in place, EPA was assuming a quicker electrification of the fleet than would normally occur. So these rules were really forcing manufacturers to produce electric vehicles quicker than they would have naturally as the market would have determined. And so the EPA's MOVES model incorporated those assumed electrification rates moving forward into the future years. With these rules rescinded, EPA will have to go in eventually and update their models to more realistic adoption rate of electric vehicles. And so that could have some impact on the emissions projected in future years. This action has no relevance to any of our current plans because those are all past years. But when we do transportation conformity analyses and for regional emissions, we could have an impact to our emissions, pretty minor, but they could still be there for our out years of 2040 and 2050. So that's really the direct impact that this rule has on the region. And so I just wanted to provide the committee with the rule in its entirety and the fact sheets for their information moving forward. And that concludes presentation on that. Happy to take any questions or comments the committee might have.
Thank you, Matt. Do any members have questions or comments? Are there any requests from the membership for an item on a future agenda?
Mr. Chair, if I might mention something as folks are thinking, I do want to take this opportunity to, as folks might be aware of, just yesterday, EPA issued a national fuel waiver, relieving all regulatory fuel requirements that exist, and that includes the requirement to use Arizona cleaner burning gasoline in the summer. Currently, it's a 20-day emergency waiver. So from May 1st through May 20th right now, the area will no longer be required to use cleaner burning gasoline with a lower Reid vapor pressure. EPA has also indicated that they intend to most likely extend that waiver further into the summer as geopolitical events dictate and kind of these unique circumstances regarding fuel continue throughout this year. But that's something we're tracking. That could be an item that could come up for committee discussion. We also know there's a lot of interest in longer term actions on fuel in the legislature. So if the legislature chooses to do something with our cleaner burning gasoline, we'll try and keep the committee updated with that as well. I just wanted to mention that as a possible topic that you could see coming up on our agendas.
Thank you, Matt. The next meeting of the Air Quality Technical Advisory Committee will be on Thursday, April 23rd, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. with no